Good morning, everybody. We're going to take just a few minutes to get some information that we need prior to the meeting. So we are going to start a few minutes late, probably like just a few minutes. Okay, good morning. We have an update. We don't have a quorum at the moment, but one of our board members is en route and should be here shortly. So we're going to wait a few more minutes for that person to get here, and then we will have a quorum and we can conduct all our business. So just hang tight. Thank you. Go back to talking. Good morning. We are going to call our May 13th meeting to order, and we are going to begin with the invocation and the pledge, and we have two LSVI students who will be. Do we have a student that's doing the prayer or just the pledge? Okay, well, I will do the prayer. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, please guide over us today. Please watch over the board and give them the knowledge to make good decisions that help with the management and the growth of all students in SSD. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, now we have two LSVI students who will come and do the pledge. We have Ash and Strider.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ash and Strider. That was very nice. Okay, we have a full agenda today, and we're going to try to move swiftly as we have a quorum of only 7 people, and I know one of our members needs to be dismissed around 12, so if we can just try to use effective time management today, that would be great. All right, we're going to move to new business. The minutes from the March 18th meeting minutes need to be approved. Everybody should have received them in email. So I just need a motion to approve the minutes, or if you want to take a minute to look over them.
This is Sherry. I move to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
This is Kenny. I second.
Okay, I'm going to take a roll call. Jamar? Yes. Sherry?
Yes.
Jessica? Ronnie?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Kenny?
Yes.
And Christy is a yes. So the meeting minutes are approved. All right, we're going to move to meeting dates 25-26. So y'all know that we have been working very diligently with Andre, the board attorney, to make all of our meetings available by Zoom, where members can attend by Zoom and vote. So Andre's had to do a lot of work to get this going, but we do feel like our next meeting in June will be able to be done by Zoom. So as a board member, you could attend by Zoom if you wanted, or you could be here in person. So I have some dates for the next year of board meetings, and I'm going to give you those dates. When's the next meeting? It's June, or we don't have one in June? Okay, we don't have one in June. So these are, yes.
This is Kenny.
Hey, Kenny.
I was wondering, is it every 2 or 3 months? It would be like maybe the first or second Tuesday of the month. Can you tell me when they fall in the month?
Scott.
Yeah, if it's the first Tuesday, I'm not available to attend.
Okay.
What were you saying, Scott?
Hold on.
Y'all may want to plan for it being after the 20th so that virtual rule is in effect to hold the meeting hybrid.
Would that be July, after June 20th?
June, I
Okay.
think.
So these are the dates that I have. So can you check your calendar real quick and let's see if these work for us moving forward? The next meeting would be July 15th. Kenny, what day does that fall on? Can you see in your phone?
The week of the 9th through the 13th, I'm not available. After that is fine.
Okay, this would be July 15th.
Yeah, July is fine.
Okay.
The dates I mentioned were in June.
Okay, thank you. September 9th, November 11th, January 13th, March 10th, May 5th. Ronnie?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Bessie meets the second Tuesday and Wednesday of every month. Not every month, they meet the second Tuesday and Wednesday 7 times annually, and I would not be able to attend those meetings.
I couldn't hear the last part.
The second Tuesday and Wednesday of every month would be a question for me.
Okay,
Because it would potentially conflict with scheduled Bessie meetings.
okay. Let's look at the calendar real quick. Let me grab my phone.
I missed the other dates you mentioned. I got July 15th, September 9th, and
Yes.
then what was after that?
Okay, I'll go over them one more time. July 15th, September 9th, November 11th, January 13th, March 10th, and May 5th. So, let's see. Yeah, so July 15th is a Tuesday. Yeah, it looks like these are all Tuesdays.
Yeah, can you give me Madam Chair, can you give me the 26 dates again? I'm sorry.
July 15th, September 9th, November 11th, January 13th, March 10th, and May 5th.
I would not be able to attend January and March of 26. I would be able to attend all of the 25 dates.
Okay, and hopefully by that time we'll have a couple of more board members. Does anybody have a conflict with, besides those 2 dates for Ronnie, have a conflict with the dates that we listed? Yes. Yeah, see that. Okay. What about Wednesday, November 12th? Would that work for that one?
This is Kenny. That's fine with me.
Okay. So instead of November 11th, because that's Veterans Day, we would make it Wednesday, November 12th.
I cannot. This is Maria. I cannot do it on November 12th.
Okay. Anybody else that could not do it besides Maria on the 12th? Okay, I think that would be okay, Maria, if you couldn't attend that one. Okay, so let's review them one more time, and then we'll make a motion to vote on them. July 15th, September 9th, November 12th, January 13th, March 10th, May 5th. Okay. Can I get a
This is
motion
Sherry.
to approve?
I am moved to approve these dates as listed for our meetings.
Thank you, Sherry. Can I get a second? Thank you, Jamar. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're just going to take a roll call vote. Jamar? Sherry?
Yes.
Jessica? Ronnie?
Yeah, I vote yes, noting that I would not be able to attend January and March.
Yes, got that. Maria?
Yes.
Kenny?
Yes.
And Christy is a yes as well. Okay, the motion passes. We will move on. All right, we are going to talk about the superintendent evaluation, and all the board members have been receiving information in their emails regarding the superintendent's evaluation. The deadline, I'm going to let Andre speak to this for us, but the deadline for the board's qualitative and quantitative measures, what the qualitative survey is, and the quantitative standards. Andre, if you just kind of want to speak to that and what we're going to do moving forward.
Hi, this is Andre. We need to have the board member surveys. We need to have the board member surveys returned on a sooner than later basis. The board then will need to send out surveys to more than 25 stakeholders, and each board member is being asked to supply a list of 3 to 5 individuals. We also have been provided a list of stakeholders with the SSD from Dr. Martin's office, and we will use and can use that list to send out additional surveys. Ultimately, all of the results have to be in and tabulated at least 2-3 weeks prior to the September 9th, upcoming September 9, 2025 board meeting.
Okay. Okay, so I sent out surveys to the SSP program at Pinecrest and at the place where I work, Central Louisiana Supports and Services Center, and I've received already about 30 back. So each board member, we're asking y'all to supply 2 to 3 names for us that we can send the survey to. Each board member has also been given the survey, so I'm asking you to get those back to me. Let's see. Okay, if you can get your survey back to me by May 28th, the board member surveys. Does that work for everybody? And then also by May 28th, I would need the at least the 3 to 5 names of people you would like us to send them to. Okay, does that work for everybody? Do we need to make a motion on that, Andre? Okay, thank you. Okay, does everybody have those dates? Okay, good. All right, we will move on, and we're going to go to the SSD internal auditor. Yes, Ronnie?
Yeah, Madam Chair, while we're on the topic of the superintendent's evaluation, I
Yeah.
also wanted to see if we can get alignment on path forward with regard to the need for a quantitative assessment and what our process is going to be to work that.
Okay, Andre, if you want to speak to that.
Yes. Dr. Martin and I met after the last meeting and put forward a proposed draft quantitative evaluation framework. And I'm waiting to meet with him and SSD council, and we'll see if we can't, on a sooner than later basis, get a draft framework of the quantitative analysis and present it to the board members.
Do you think we could present that in July, prior to the September meeting?
Yes.
Okay, that will work. So for the quantitative measures, we'll have that, Ronnie, for July. Yes.
Yeah, and so this is Ronnie again. So just for new members, just to help them appreciate the background here, I think in previous meetings, what I had shared was that following the statute requirements for the state superintendent of education, using that as a model, I guess, for potential consideration, statute requires that the state superintendent have an annual performance review, and it be 50% qualitative and 50% quantitative. And then obviously within the quantitative component, there'd be consideration given for the student body and what those appropriate goals and measures would be. But we feel like 50% weight on both would message to all of our stakeholders the significance of both the quantitative and the qualitative assessment.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Can I comment?
Sure.
So I believe at the last board meeting, it was voted that, that for this year's evaluation, that 25% were going to be from
Right.
those quantitative measures.
Right.
And those quantitative measures were based on the rubric that you had passed out in a previous meeting. And so that had passed. So for this year's evaluation, 25% of my, according to the board and the motion that was passed, will be the quantitative measures. And we're waiting, those quantitative measures should be, all of the information should be received over the summer, because we're just now finishing up the leak testing and things like that. And then I had been working with Andre on creating a very comprehensive measure that would be 50% quantitative moving forward for the following year's evaluation. I also would like to note that I never received the report from last year's evaluation, the comprehensive report that would have allowed me to look at the qualitative measures. I don't know what I scored in each one of those categories, and so I've been playing the game sort of blind, and I asked for it a couple of times but never received it. So this year, I just want to put for the record that the actual measures for my evaluation were not determined until February, and that's after the game was 3 quarters played. So I just want to just put that out there. Moving forward, when
Right.
we get, after we go through the qualitative measures this time, it would be very beneficial for me to get a copy of those survey results. Not everybody's survey results, but the
Right.
final totals for each one of those categories, so that I could hone in on some of the things that I need to work on.
Thank you, Dr. Martin, and hopefully, as the board moves forward, we will continue to grow and understand what actually it is we're voting on. Okay, Ronnie?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is Ronnie again. I just wanted to double down on the superintendent's comments. I think it's very important that we establish those goals in advance, 12 months in advance of the review, so that expectations are clear and the superintendent can focus on those priorities. So just 100% agree with that. And then, of course, I would also want to encourage the members to take a look at the qualitative and the quantitative goals that we've agreed upon. Let's make sure everybody understands what those goals are, agree they're reasonable expectations, and I'd also like to think that that we're trending those performance outcomes,
Right.
and so we can appreciate the history, the progress we've made, and so forth.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments regarding the superintendent's evaluation? Thanks for those comments. Okay, we're going to move on. The SSD internal auditor. Dr. Martin, who will speak to that.
Yeah, this is Dr. Martin. I think that the D and E sort of go together.
Okay.
So by law, because the size of our budget, the SSD is required to have an internal auditor position. Sorry. Here. Oop. Well, I just taken everything down here. I was a little far. So we're required by law to have an internal auditor position. The threshold for that is $30 million. Right now, our budget's about $39 million, 39 and a half. So we had an internal, that was a finding with LLA that we did not have an internal auditor. We then hired an internal auditor, and as of, I think, 2 weeks ago, that internal auditor left and went to another agency. So we will, and I will cover this in my superintendent's report, but that was one of the positions that I sent for an exemption on the hiring freeze, just because it's required by law to have that position. So hopefully we'll get that, and I'll be able to fill that out. That internal auditor is required to have a charter. So we had a charter in place. And when the internal auditor originally came in, the internal auditor reported to legal, specifically Scott Whitford was the internal auditor supervisor. And I had set that up because I saw legal as the most sort of non-biased part of our agency. Although in other agencies, I found out that the internal auditor typically reports directly to the appointing authority. So with that in mind, we have modified the audit charter for the next auditor that comes in because we needed to have a mechanism in place if there is an issue involving myself, and if there's an issue that the internal auditor discovers that involves the superintendent, no matter who sits in the seat, whether it's me or someone else. And so we added some language to the audit charter, and I believe that was sent out. Was it sent out to everyone? I believe it should have been sent out to everyone.
Yes, it was.
And I'll point you directly to what changed. I don't believe this requires a vote
Okay.
by the board, because the internal audit charter is something that's really between the auditor and LLA. So that's the Louisiana legislative auditor. But I do want to point out that we did put some measures in there, and I appreciate Andre's help with this, drafting this and putting this together. If you'll go down to, there's a section called Reporting of Material Findings Involving the Superintendent subsection. And what that does, it just lays out a specific mechanism that would involve the board should there be an audit finding that involves the superintendent. That's so that, obviously, I report directly to the board. You are my boss. And so that there's a mechanism specifically written in the charter, so it's very clear about what happens if something occurs and the superintendent is involved. And so that's just for, transparency purposes and, I think legal purposes to keep us straight with everything, just in case I or someone that's sitting in my seat messes up.
Thank you. Ronnie?
Yeah, thank you, Ronnie Morris. Superintendent, can you help us out? What do you think is the timetable for filling that position?
Well, that is unknown right now because we're under a hiring freeze. I submitted our exemption request to Department of Administration. I do know that they are looking at it and examining it because I got some clarifying questions from the Office of Planning and Budget. So hopefully, I'd love to hear, if I hear something back this week, then we can post the position. Unfortunately, I can't post the position until I hear something back because of the executive order with the hiring freeze.
Right. Do we have any outstanding audit requirements right now?
Well, we are currently going through our regular cycle audit with LLA. But Dale Piku, the business manager, is making sure that they get all the information that they have. We don't have any current findings or anything that we're having to address. But we, obviously we'll probably have some things after, because the audit with LLA goes through June 30th. And so after June 30th, they'll provide us a report, and any findings or suggestions that they may have, we'll obviously, work with those. But right now, the only audit that I believe that we're currently under, we just had a Medicare audit, but all of these audits are routine. They're not anything specifically because of an issue or anything like that.
And this internal auditor, would that person's work scope include a regular update for status of any outstanding audit items?
Yes, so they would create they would create a tracking mechanism to make sure that we're addressing those audit findings in a timely manner.
And so in the absence of that position being filled, is anybody taking care of that for us right now so that the board can appreciate if there are any outstanding audit items, and if so, what the follow-up is?
Yeah, that would be myself or a member of the business office would be working on that, make sure that nothing falls through the cracks.
Okay, and just for the board's benefit, do we have any outstanding audit items right now that are still open?
I don't believe so. I think we've rectified all of the audits findings from the previous LLA audit, and I don't believe we have any. But I will verify that, and then I can send out an email.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome. And Ronnie, to give you a point of reference on the hiring freeze, I just got mine back yesterday, and mine was one of the first ones submitted, so it looks like it could take like anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks for the hiring freeze exemption to be approved so that an agency can hire.
Yeah, this is
Exempt
Dr. Martin. The
position.
hiring freeze may be lifted before we get our.
Yeah.
Because I've heard rumblings that it may be just when the new fiscal year
June
starts,
30th.
then the hiring freeze is lifted, but I don't have any verification of that.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions regarding the internal audit? Okay, thank you. We are going to move on. All right, at this time, we're going to move to the grievance hearing matter 2024-01. We're going to take this up in executive session, so we'll need to vote to move to executive session. Do I need a motion first? Okay, I need a motion to move to executive session.
This is Kenny.
Thank you.
I so move.
Thank you, Kenny. Do I
that
have
we
a
move
second?
into executive session.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay, I'm just going to take a roll call vote so it's all official to move to executive session. Jamar? Sherry?
I'm unsure if I should be voting without getting at least preliminary information.
So we had a grievance back in January that was filed, and the Personnel Committee heard the grievance. So you're going to get all the information in the executive session.
So we'll move it from, this is from January, the same grievance?
Say again.
The same grievance from January?
Yes.
Okay, then fine, yes.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Jessica? Yes. Ronnie?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Kenny?
Yes.
And Christy is a yes. Okay, so we will move to, we're going to stay here, actually. Okay, thank you. So let's get that taken care of, and then we'll move. We're going to stay here, and I think everybody
This is
else is going to
Kenny.
exit.
Will the Zoom meeting be taken down? This is Kenny. Will you take down the Zoom meeting or the feed?
Say again.
Okay, I just wanted to say something. I know Sherry just asked a question about this, and I want to add a little perspective before y'all go into executive session. I am an attorney for the district. I love this job. I value my job. But in this instance, I am the grievant. So my grievance was filed back in November, not January. I have been 6 months working with this hanging over my head. And so I want to be allowed, I don't know that anybody can tell my story like I can tell my story. I would like to make myself available for questions, for information, for anything like that. I know we have some new board members that weren't even here back in November. So I want to say that. But also I am worried about the board and being compliant with open meetings. There's personal liability that's associated with that. I read through the minutes from March, and it says that we postponed this in March because it was not a hearing, but it was noticed as a hearing. Today it's noticed as a hearing, but we were told it wasn't a hearing. So I don't know whether it's a hearing. I don't know whether it was noticed correctly. Again, I'm not your attorney on this matter. I am the grievant, submitted 6 months ago. And also, y'all did properly take a roll call vote to go into executive session. But in order for this not to be discussed in public, we need to cite the reason that we're going into executive session. We don't need to avoid transparency and sunshine. There's only 9 exceptions, and the minutes have to be amended to add that, and I don't know if that is there. Also, I don't know what materials have been provided to the board, but I have a 300-page transcript. I don't know if anybody's been able to read that or anybody knows the statements. So I don't know what's going to be accomplished today, and I'm just asking, since this is my day in court, and I have been living under these circumstances for a while, in order to make myself available. So,
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, if I could offer that on the agenda, it does identify this as grievance hearing matter number 2024-01.
Right.
So we have actually documented the purpose for the executive session, and then we can use that as a reference to call forward the documents or the witness as appropriate as a matter of record. So personally, I feel like we're prepared and we've properly documented the executive session if the board chooses to go there.
Jamar.
I did not, and I know that one of the exceptions to going into executive session is if you're going to discuss the character and fitness of somebody. I don't think that my character and fitness would be discussed because I've already received a letter of, exoneration's not the right word, but back in December. I don't know if the 3 people that I grieved against, their character and fitness would be discussed. But to my knowledge, nobody received notice to allow this to be in public.
Right. Right. Okay, and I'll let Andre speak to that as our board attorney.
Under the statute 4217, there is a provision permitting executive sessions for investigative proceedings regarding allegations of misconduct. There were allegations of misconduct that were made that were heard in the December hearing on this matter. It was heard before a personnel committee. Personnel committee made a recommendation as to the result or outcome of the grievance petition. Today's executive session is for the members of that personnel committee to advise the board members what took place. And Ms. Green is here and available if there are any questions from any board members whatsoever.
My only response to that would be that I was told that the investigation took place back in December. Today is, I guess, just to share the recommendation.
Exactly.
So if the investigation took place back in December, then that's not the exception. We'll again need to amend the minutes to reflect the reason to go into executive session. It will need to meet one of those 9 exceptions. And if the exception declared as character and fitness of a person, that was not noticed correctly. And if it's an investigation, I'm told that that was done back in December.
Okay, Ronnie?
Yeah, so Madam Chair, I'd just like to ask council a specific question. Does item F, grievance hearing matter number 2024-01, recognizing that all the documentation relative to that hearing is contained there, I'd like to ask our attorney, is that sufficient to address the concerns that have been raised?
Yes, it's my opinion that it does. It sufficiently raises the matter to the public agenda level. Now, the subject of the grievance hearing absolutely has a right to waive the matter being taken up in executive session, and we could hear it in public if that's what's being asked for.
I would like for it to be held in public since it doesn't meet an exception, but it was not noticed correctly for today.
Jamar?
If the witness respectfully wants it to be heard in public, I don't have a problem with it. I just don't want to be on the wrong side of a violation of open meetings law. And as an elected official, I'm pretty sure you would feel the same way. So,
Ronnie?
Yeah, Madam Chair, yeah, I fully agree with Mr. Ennis's comments, and that's why I asked our counsel if he had any concerns about compliance with public meeting law, and my interpretation of his response is that he has no concerns with compliance with public meeting law. However, he did offer the opportunity for Ms. Green to make it a public hearing as opposed to a hearing in executive session. And so in my mind, from my experience, that's the appropriate guidance. And so it's really just up to Ms. Green if she'd like for it to be public or not. But based on our attorney's feedback, it is properly noticed, and both of those options are available depending on Ms. Green's preference.
Okay, so are you saying that we're not going to go into executive session? Or are we saying we are going to go into executive session?
This is Ronnie again. My interpretation from counsel is that that's your option.
Okay. Well, and again, I think to comply with the open meetings law, I would like it to be held in public. But again, I don't think it was noticed correctly because the exception hasn't been cited. And the only way that it really would even be talked about in executive session is if we were talking about the character and fitness in somebody. That's a 24-hour notice ahead of time, that kind of thing. I don't think it meets the exception to go into. I don't think it's noticed with specificity of what it is. It's my understanding that only 2 members of this board even knew there was a grievance filed. It gets to you at level 4 only under certain circumstances. And I obviously don't want it to go to executive session because I don't think it meets an exception. And I think that we're trying to do it quietly when it doesn't need to be done quietly. But again, I don't know that
think we were trying to do it quietly. I think we were trying to do it professionally.
Yeah. Well, executive session is just behind closed doors. It's not quietly. Maybe that's the wrong word.
Yes.
Out of the public purview, I guess I should say. And again, that's why those exceptions exist. And if it met an exception, I would be fine with that. I've partook in plenty of executive sessions, and there are definitely times and places for it. But I feel like some of this board is blindsided. I do want y'all to say some of the ground rules for going in. And again, I just want to make myself available. I've been living under the cloud of this since November, and I want to keep this board safe because there is personal liability when it comes to violations of open meetings law. And I have been as forthcoming as I can. It's why it got postponed in March. Every juncture that I have been able to point out a fallacy or a discrepancy or whatever, I want us to be compliant, and I don't think anybody in this room can argue with that. And I just don't know if we're postured. I am ready to get it over with, but I don't know if we're postured correctly today.
I'm just going to defer to the attorney and then for one more time, and then we can vote to go into executive session, do it in public. Andre?
We can proceed in public.
Okay. Jamar?
At the appropriate time, after we set ground rules, I would like to, and I don't know if the vote is appropriate to end the executive session, just on the sake of time that we have. But I think that would be the most appropriate thing to do, set ground rules and end the executive session and just move forward.
And if you don't go to executive session, if you do it in public, then you're not going to be in violation of the open meetings law. Even though it wasn't noticed correctly, I am willing, because I've been waiting 6 months, I'm willing, while we have everybody in a quorum today, to deal with it. But I don't know how that this would meet the exception, which is a requisite to go into executive session. I don't know what exception it would fall under to allow it to be out of the public purview.
Andre, do you want to speak to the ground rules if we go to the public? Just keep it public.
It would proceed as any other matter held by this board in public.
Okay.
Presumably, the members of the Personnel Committee would bring up the matter that they heard and bring it to a vote as to whether they accept the board, the board accept the recommendation of the Personnel Committee.
Jamar?
Ms. Green, what ground rules did you foresee or had in mind?
I didn't have any ground rules. I didn't know if we were going to go into executive session or do this in public. As far as executive session went, which it sounds like we're not going to do, I just didn't want to not have an opportunity to present to all of you. I mean, I'm the only one that really knows the story. It happened 6 months ago when we went and gave statements in front of a court reporter. That was back in December. You know, I don't know that the members that didn't live it could even remember the details of my story. Again, there's a 300-page transcript. I don't know if it was brailled for today. I don't know that any board member that's not on the Personnel Committee could get up to speed on this matter today, so I definitely wanted to make myself available to answer questions. So I'm assuming, as far as ground rules, if we do this in public, is that whatever presentation that the Personnel Committee and Board Counsel was prepared to make to the board in executive session today, I assume that they will make it publicly today. And again, my offer to clarify and answer questions and supplement, it is still there. And I would recommend that everybody be given a copy of the minutes from that Personnel Committee meeting and the transcript that the recommendation was based off of.
Andre, just tell us what to do.
We can proceed forward, or you can defer and take Ms. Green's suggestion to have the transcript sent to every board member. I thought the point of having a personnel committee was to truncate some of that
Right.
and have the matter heard by the committee, and the committee to then give a recommendation to the board and proceed from there.
Sharon?
This is Sherry. How many individuals are on the Personnel Committee,
3 people.
and who are they?
Jamar, Ronnie, myself, and during this hearing, it was just Ronnie and myself that were available. And we met with Andre and Whitney and some other people.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
Okay, this is Dr. Martin. There are 3 other people involved in this grievance. And so I want to make sure that it's understood that Ms. Green is not the only one that knows the story in the room, as previously stated. And that there are other perspectives to the said story, and that, if we're talking about addressing someone's character and fitness in public, then if other people's character and fitness are being questioned, should they or should they not have the right to have that heard in executive session? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm just posing it. And Ms. Green is the counsel for the agency. I'd rather hear from the counsel for the board because this is a board matter.
Got it.
I think that's an excellent point, and my recommendation would be to defer the matter till the next meeting, and I will get with Ms. Green, and we can stylize however she thinks is appropriate the agenda item. I disagree with her, because the board can take up a matter in executive session that's never been on the agenda by 2/3 vote. But be that as it may, I'll get with Ms. Green, and we will stylize the agenda however she wants it stylized, and then we can move in executive session at the next board meeting, because I do agree with Dr. Martin to the extent that the character of other individuals will be mentioned during the session.
Right.
If we're going to go into the details of the grievance.
Whitney?
I do agree that you can add an agenda item, although in this instance, this has been going on for 6 months, that this is not the kind of thing that should be added at the last minute, and it would take a unanimous vote. It was already on the agenda, so we don't have to add it to the agenda. An executive session should never be presumed because it takes a roll call vote and an exception to go into it. So I do agree that, and to kind of differentiate from what Dr. Martin said, I did not mean that it was only my story, but I'm the grievant, and I'm the only grievant versus people who I allege grieved against me that would be witnesses, that kind of thing. So when I meant that it was my story, I meant that I am the grievant. I didn't mean that I was the only person involved. I want to offer myself to tell my side of the story, and I am fine with anybody else that the board wants to hear from telling their side of the story. Again, some of it is comprised in this transcript. I don't think that the board members could get up to speed on that transcript, and something that they haven't been briefed on before. It's my understanding that the transcript was not provided in the board meeting materials prior to this meeting. It hasn't been brailled. And so I just don't know if it would be meaningful for the people that are just now hearing about the grievance and the nature of the grievance today to get up to speed on that recommendation. So I'm fine with noticing the other people involved, but again, whenever you want to talk about character and fitness of someone in public setting or executive session, there should have been notice provided, and I am fine. There's one person that's involved in this that doesn't work anymore. I don't know that they were told to come today. But I do not want exclusive access to the board. I would like everybody to have the same kind of access, and the board to have equal access to all of us.
Okay, so it sounds like to me we probably need to defer this. I'm unsure of the purpose of the personnel committee that we did back in December. Seems like we're kind of starting from ground zero, but
Can I make one more point?
yeah.
Christy, you and I had this discussion last time, is that y'all's bylaws set up a personnel committee. The personnel committee is the only standing committee that is tasked with hiring the superintendent, doing job performance and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
Grievances do not fall under the purview. Our grievance policy specifically says that the board hears grievances that make it up to level 4, not 1, 2, 3, 5 members, but the board. And so that's why, even though Mr. Bourgeois said something about that we were supposed to kind of truncate this procedure by what we did in December, the board was always the arbiter of this, not select members. And there was actually a grievance committee set up a while ago. Kenny was on it, you were on it, Christy, and Michelle was on it.
Right.
And so this, to me, once you set up a standing committee, I don't know why the personnel committee got involved. Honestly, I didn't know it was going to be a full-on committee meeting because it wasn't noticed correctly. The 60 days have passed from the December thing. But the Personnel Committee itself, I'm not exactly sure how it went there first, because our grievance policy clearly says the board shall hear this. And if a committee were to hear it, I would assume that the grievance committee would. So we might be back at square one, but as far as open meetings law with this board, that might be for the best.
Andre?
I would say at this point, we need a motion to defer the matter till the next meeting.
Okay, and then within, the next meeting will be July 15th, I think. And in that time, the board will receive the 300 pages.
I just have a quick question, and obviously I'm not voting on this, but
Right.
if Ms. Green is saying that the Personnel Committee was null, that it was handled correctly, and she's calling into question the process in which that was handled, it seems to me that then if that wasn't handled correctly, then any evidence, statements, or anything made during that time would be null and void, if that's what we're saying. If we're saying that it was handled correctly, then all that evidence could move forward.
A lawsuit would have to have been filed, or an open meetings complaint would have had to have been made within 60 days. One was not made 60 days from December the 3rd. So even though it was probably improper, no violations can be raised. So as far as the information gotten from that, it's valid on the table.
So we're good to go then.
Okay, so we are going to make a motion to defer this to the July 15th. Jamar?
I formally make the motion to defer to July 15th.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Ronnie, thank you. We're going to,
This is Kenny. I have a
Yes.
question.
yes.
So you were saying that it's 300-page transcript, and are we able to get that brailled? How is that going to occur?
Andre?
Yes, it would need to be brailled,
Okay.
and a copy of the transcript can be sent to each board member.
Okay, I will get with SSD.
And with a 300-page document, we'll have to contract that out.
Okay. Do you know when we may get it? Like if we, Katie, Laura?
I'll have to get with Dr. Seeger. She's the
Okay.
one that contracts the braille out.
Okay.
But, we can obviously get it out there as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I will say those are court reporter pages, so they're not quite as long as like a standard 300 pages, but it's still probably sizable.
Okay. Ronnie?
Yeah, Ronnie Morris. Along with that report, I'd just like to make sure every member also gets the document with a summary of the process. So that
Okay.
kind of closes the loop on the whole deal, and then we can decide what we want to do with it, but at least all the information is available.
Okay, Andre, we'll get that from you on the whole process, the summary and the
Correct.
process that we used. Okay, so we had a motion and a second. I was going to take a roll call vote. Jamar?
Yes.
Sherry?
I need clarification. We're going to postpone to July 15th and do an executive session at that time or not?
I don't know if we'll do executive session or public.
I don't think you can assume executive session as previously stated. I think it would have to be voted on at that point in time, whether it's heard publicly
Or
or in executive
executively.
session.
Okay, so it'll be determined at that time, Sherry.
And a point of information, this board does have the appropriate, like, we have plenty of time to posture it for
Right,
an executive session if we follow the statute to the T. So
right.
we just, and this is the reason why we're making this because there's some uncertainty. I just don't want to be liable or
Right.
exposed for litigation for open meetings law.
Absolutely.
Then my answer would be yes.
Thank you, Sherry. Jessica? Ronnie?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Kenny?
Yes.
Thank you, and Christy is a yes as well. So we will defer that to July 15th. All right, so we are going to move on. All right, so SSD Board Officer elections. So I have been in the position of the president for a while now, and I think it's a year or 2 years, Andre, that we spoke of.
Under the current bylaws, it's one-year positions. This board, of course, under those same bylaws, by two-thirds vote, can move to amend them, should they choose at some point now or later, to extend the positions from a one-year to a two-year period. The concern and problem that we've had with one-year terms is that this board is, by and large, almost completely flipped over every gubernatorial election because these are governor's appointments.
Right.
But for purposes of today, on the agenda is a vote for the president and vice president positions. They can be self-nominated or nominated by any other board member.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to offer a motion that the board consider changing the bylaws to a two-year term.
Okay. Would that be something we could consider today, Andre?
No, it would have to be put on the agenda.
This is Sherry. Could we
Okay.
consider maybe doing 4 years?
Could what? You do?
Could we consider doing 4 years?
Could you do every 4 years? She's asking.
Yes, this board has the ability to change its bylaws in whatever reasonable manner they seem fit to do so, but it would need to be made as a separate agenda item.
Okay.
And
So
you
we'll
move-
add that to the agenda for next meeting.
Correct.
Ronnie?
Yeah, so, Madam Chair, I would offer a motion that we would defer this item until next meeting, and at that time, we would list the agenda appropriately so we could give consideration to changes to the bylaws.
Okay.
Do we need a motion for
That-
that? or-
I made the motion, we would need a second.
Yep.
This is Kenny. I second the motion. Are we
On-
going to have discussion now?
So,
So this would defer the item
yeah.
until the next
it
meeting.
would defer the vote for the new president and the vice president to July 15th.
Right, and at that time, we could give consideration to changes to the bylaws after it was listed appropriately on the agenda with
Okay.
24 hours notice.
I agree with that.
This is Sherry. For a bylaws change, we need a two-thirds vote of the board. Correct?
Yes.
Right.
So then, for that change to happen on July 15th, it would need to happen on July 15th and not today.
Yeah, we would just defer it until next meeting, and then the next meeting, we would vote to change the bylaws and then elect the president and the vice president at the same time.
And we would just need the two-thirds vote at that meeting if we wanted to change
Change
the
it.
bylaws or not.
Right.
And then if we did vote to change the bylaws, then we would have the officer election.
Okay.
If we decided not to change the bylaws, we would still have the officer election,
Just be
just
for
with different
lesser
guidelines.
time.
And Christie?
Yes.
It's my understanding that it's two-thirds of the membership, not two-thirds of who's present that day. So,
Hopefully,
Agreed. Correct, yes.
hopefully we'll have our members who are not here today present. All right, so we had a motion and a second. I'm just going to take a roll call vote. Jamar?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jessica? Thank you. Kent?
Yes.
Yes, sorry. Maria?
Yes.
Kenny?
Yes.
And Christy is a yes. So we will defer that as well. All right, so at this time, we're going to move to the superintendent's report.
All right, we'll start the superintendent's report, and we're going to start with Susan Covington,
Good
With-
morning.
LSVI.
Susan Covington, LSBI here. I'm going to try to be quick, but I have a lot of numbers, so please bear with me. Slide 2, please. All right, so I want to start with our school improvement plan. We have 6 staff this year who are now NCUEB certified in Braille. We have 5 staff who finished their TVIs. Dual enrollment, we had 3 college 1010, which is year 1 college, 3 of those people who all earned A's in the class. We had 1 1020 who earned A in the class as well. And we had the highest DE scores in the state for high school students. 2 of the 3 students in 1010 were recognized as Outstanding Writers Award winners for Southeastern English Department. We offered college algebra and college trig. 1 student took each of those and earned an A in algebra and a B in trig. We had 4 students take DE US history. Of those students, I believe all 4 earned A's. Our spring LEAP testing so far, we haven't gotten all of our scores in, but we're very excited about our scores. So far, we had 1 advanced in US history, 1 out of 2 masteries, 50% mastery in geometry, 1 of 2 students 50% mastery in algebra, and 1 of 3 students mastery in biology. We are waiting on English 1 and English 2, and we're waiting on 1 more score for US history. Juniors and seniors, the ACT scores and the work key scores. For our top seniors, when they took their test again, we had a 33, a 26, a 20, a 20, and an 18 for our top university students. And for our Jumpstart students, we had a 14 and a 13. Work Keys is the National Career Readiness Certification. Our juniors and seniors took this. We had 6 students take the test. 3 earned silver, and 2 earned bronze. So only 1 student didn't get the accreditation. For National Red Cross accreditation and certification, we had 8 students get certified in CPR and first aid. National Customer Service, IBC credential, we had 4 students get certified with the IBC. And I was very excited with our LEAP Connect scores. We worked a lot on math numeracy this year, and our regular scores haven't come in yet for our K through 8th grade, but the findings here from math for our LEAP Connect students show that what we did was working. So in English, we had 11 students take the test. 4 of the 11 scored above the state average. We had 3 that was below average, 3 near, 3 at goal, 2 above average. In math, we only had 1 student below average. We had 3 of the 11 students taking it above the state average. We had 4 near goal, 3 at goal, and 3 above goal. For science, we had 3 students take the test. We had 1 near goal and 2 above goal with perfect scores. Not as great news for our DIBELS, which is the Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. 1 of 8 students was at benchmark. Large print doesn't get time and a half, doesn't get double time. And it's very difficult to read 75 to 100 font at any rate of speed when you're trying to read large print. The students can read, but it doesn't show that they were at benchmark because they didn't read fast enough. 1 student who scored benchmark was a Braille reader, a 2nd grader, who knows almost the whole Braille code. We will do better. I would hope that we would get extended time, like all the other tests, and their IEPs says that they should get extended time, but that was not awarded. So we will continue to ask for extended time. For our PBIS, which is our positive behavior support, this year we had 60% more teacher participation in Kickboard than last year. We had 98% positivity And what that means is at the fall, we had 55 of 58 students able to go on the trip. And in the spring, we had 53 of 58 students go on their positive behavior field trip. I mean, that's, to me, exciting news that the kids are doing the right things. Part of that comes from our expanded core curriculum, which is that social interaction that we work on. So I have to mark part of that to that increase. The expanded core curriculum, we focused hard on compensatory skills, which means that you're able to go into the classroom and access your curriculum. So that means Braille, that means Nemeth, that means being able to have your textbooks and everything at the same time as your sighted peers. We worked on the social interactions, which was tied to PBIS, O&M skills, recreation and leisure, self-determination, career education, and independent living skills. Next year, we're focusing again on Braille and Nemeth and assistive technology. We have assistive technology, but I think we need to be able to use it more, and that's our plan. Next year, Braille Challenge, we're hosting Braille Challenge. We will be a regional advocacy challenge for the first time. And we'll also have White Cane Day, which are all part of the expanded core curriculum. Slide 3, please. All right, so 2025 State Braille Challenge winners. Really excited. There were 5 categories. Out of the 5 categories, LSVI scored in the state 4 of those. We scored apprentice, which is the babies. We scored 3rd place in the state. Our sophomores, which is like 5th grade-ish, we scored 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place in the state. The JV, we scored 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place in the state. And varsity, we scored 2nd place in the state. So I think our Braille, really focusing on the Braille, has paid off this year. We participated in the South Central Association of Schools for the Blind SCASB track and field. 1 student qualified for Louisiana High School Athletic Association by placing 3rd place in regionals in the high jump. She was voted at SCASB as the outstanding female athlete in Class A as a 7th grader. She won 1st place in all 5 events at SCASB. And the girls' overall team placed 3rd place out of 6 schools. Graduation. May 15th, 10 a.m., if you would like to be there, we will celebrate our 4 graduates. Our valedictorian was the young lady that said the pledge, and our salutatorian was the young man. Our valedictorian scored in 33 on her ACT. She had an ACT STEM score of 31. She accumulated awards for the 30-plus Club Score Jumper Award, STEM Award, Benchmark Beater Award, President's Award, Educational Excellence Award program, which means you're 85 percentile for the ACT and have at least a 3.5 GPA. She was accepted into Western New England University's College of Arts and Sciences Forensic Biology program and has earned $40,000 in scholarships for the university and a $500 scholarship from the Louisiana School for the Blind and Visual Impaired Alumni Association. She also won the Outstanding Writers Award for Dual Enrollment English and earned 15 college credits. Our salutatorian earned a 20 on his ACT. He got the Score Jumper Award, the ACT Benchmark Beater, and he earned an IBC for the Certified Internet Web Professional Certification. Our Jumpstart senior scored a bronze for the National Career Readiness Certification in Work Keys, and she also earned the Customer Service IBC National Accreditation. We are hoping to send 3 of our teachers this summer to the LSU Kane Center for STEM literacy, and that's pretty much all I have. It's a lot, I'm sorry. Any questions?
Impressive.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so first of all, kudos to the math teacher.
Thank you.
I'm not exactly sure what we're doing there, but we sure need to double down because it's got some fantastic results. And congratulations to your valedictorian and your salutatorian. First question I had was with regard to IBCs. I know that you guys know that that's a component of the new school accountability system, and I believe it's the right focus that we need to make sure that our students are prepared for career or college right after high school. So I'm just curious what kind of review you guys conducted to see, what IBCs could be potential targets for these students?
We offer customer services 1. We don't have a lot of extra teachers, but we do have someone that can teach that class. So that's one of them. The CIW, we have someone that can do those. Those are the computer internet certifications. We also have ag science. If you take ag science, I've got students that are tops, but they're taking ag science 1 and 2, and that counts for one of their tops electives for a science. And there's also an IBC that goes along with ag science.
Right. What about interpreters? Is there an IBC for interpreters?
I do not know that.
Maybe that's something we could follow up on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next question I had was, what, if any, consideration have you guys given to AI applications at the school? I think I understand that there's a contract with FlexPoint.
Yes, sir.
And they offer some services, some opportunities remotely. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. We had this year, our geometry teacher left, and we went to FlexPoint because we were using them already for Spanish 1 and Spanish 2. So we had 2 students in the geometry class. Both of them finished. One got a mastery and one got approaching basic, which passed, but the approaching basic student also was out for a surgery. So he probably could have done a basic. What we found, the problem with FlexPoint, which is pretty much with every curriculum, is there's no Braille. And if you need Braille to see the graphs that you're being tested on, we don't have that. So that was my only problem with FlexPoint. What we had to do was create graphs, show the student what the graphs look like in real time. By then, they'd already changed the test questions. So after school tutoring, we did intensive Braille support for the geometry that we knew was coming up on that test. Not really the test, but the curriculum in FlexPoint, which worked out. They've been really good with our Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 classes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Anybody else? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. Up next is Dr. Delgado, LSD.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm Dr. Natalie Delgado. Really, same as LSVI, we are approaching the end of the year. We're having a big end of the year wrap up. We have graduations, promotions, parties, end of the year testing. It's been quite a busy month so far. If you're interested in coming to our graduation, our ceremony will be next Friday. It's coming Friday at 9:30 in the auditorium. We have our transition day for our 5th graders to visit the middle school and learn about what middle school experience would look like. Same for our 8th grader students. We're going to be visiting the high school this Friday afternoon to tour and look around and see what the experience will look like for the fall. See the CTE classrooms, the academic core classrooms, and learn about the different classes that are offered. We have our end of the year fun day coming up, so our students can enjoy and celebrate the end of the year. We're also working on our summer programming planning. We're very deep in that work right now ready to start in June. One exciting announcement I want to let you know about is the bringing back the Pelican, sorry, publication, which was established in 1859 originally. I have noticed that it stopped and was dropped around 2008 or so. We couldn't find any more publications after that date, so we decided to go ahead and bring that back. And it's nice to have our photography club students help out and run that effort, supported by our photography club sponsor, bringing back important part of our history of our school. And just like LSVI, we are working on our school improvement plan, looking into our data. This is not a comprehensive list by any means. It's just sort of a spotlight for you to look at. One exciting thing that we are looking at is our fall 2024 to spring of 2025, our in-school suspensions and our out-of-school suspensions. Our numbers are shown on the slide. They have dropped by 11% from the fall to spring, which is really great because it looks at our PBIS, our Positive Behavior Intervention Supports handbook. We looked at that heavily this year and revised it, and we established a lot more procedures and policies and readiness for that program, and we're seeing some exciting developments from that. From last year to this year, we have dropped those ISS and OSS occurrences by 68%. And so we've done a lot of hard work with that, so it's showing that improvement. Also, especially when I look at middle school, I always know it's a fun and busy age group, especially with the disciplinary actions. But looking at that, from this fall to the spring, we have seen a 60% drop in that ISS and OSS occurrences. So we're showing improvement for that, and more time for them to focus on instruction, staying in class, and learning. And overall, able just to enjoy school. For our school improvement plan, we are also looking at our goals for next year. We have submitted those to LDO, our draft, and waiting for feedback. So now that the draft goal would be based on our new accountability system, looking forward to setting up for LEAP 2025-2026, looking at those goals and focusing more on ELA and math. Last year at LEAP 2025, we had a 52% scored approaching in math, or approaching basic or higher in math. And I'll expand more on that in 1 second. We are piloting and starting out a new curricula in our K through 2 grades to see if we even like the program and expand it to use it within other grades in that level. It's called Finger Spelling Our Way to Reading. All of our students who were taking the first test out of that, 6 out of 8 scored 80% or higher on that first assessment. And it's exciting because we're looking on how this will impact our students who are actually reading and improving their ability to read. Those who are in that pilot program, they're showing growth on their DIBELS assessment as well. So we're excited to see how that's going to look in the coming years, using it fully for the full year, and what the result will look like on the DIBELS assessment as well. We actually just got back our data from our end of the year course assessments for LEAP. We don't have our LEAP 2025 scores just yet. We just took that, so we're hoping to see that result in the summer. Algebra 1, out of 5 students tested, 0 were unsatisfactory, 3 got approaching basic, which was 60%. And 20% of the students got basic. And 20% of those students got mastery. That's very exciting for us not to have any students who, we had any students achieve mastery in quite some time. Biology, out of the 9 students tested, most of them scored unsatisfactory, about 88%, and then 11% had approaching basic. For English 1, 66% of them scored unsatisfactory, and 16% had approaching basic, and 16% had mastery. And again, that's been quite some time since we've had mastery in that subject. That's exciting for us to see. English 2, most got unsatisfactory, 83%, and then 16% got approaching basic. For Leap Connect, for those students who have additional cognitive disabilities, out of the 3 tested, 1 scored below goal on ELA and math, 1 scored below goal on ELA and approaching goal on math, and the 3rd above goal for both. And then out of the 2 tested for science, both scored below goal. We are looking at our MAP scores now, maybe Friday or next week at the earliest, to see if we can get them all. We're testing them right now in each of our buildings. And then the ACT test, our juniors who took it from the fall semester, and this is very exciting, all of them except 1 showed improvement, and most of them improved with some big growths in science and STEM, as much as 8 points in growth, which is a very big deal for the ACT. A lot of them showed a lot of growth, so it's exciting to see that. We're trying to find some trends within those students, noticing so far what those students are gaining in, especially in science and STEM, that huge impact of those students taking the biology and ag at the same time. So we're seeing that trend, noticing if that will help for next year, keeping that in mind for scheduling. And the last and one of the most important announcements is a big development, and that we're looking to see for next year and the coming year after that, is our process for CESD. It's the Conference of Educators and Administrators at Schools and Programs for the Deaf. Accreditation, excuse me. So this group offers accreditation for deaf schools across the country, and we'll see more of that much more often, much more information coming from me about that, but it's exciting to start that process and bring it back. I don't think LSC has had that accreditation since 2006, thereabouts, so it's been quite some time. Any questions? Oh, I think Kenny has one. So who is the director now for CESD? We have an interim director right now. Her name is Claire Bugan. She's the former superintendent of TSD. Yes, Texas School for the Deaf. Christy?
Natalie, I have a question about the standardized test. Where do you see the biggest disconnect for your students with standardized test for your students? And maybe what accesses don't you have or do your students have to really fully participate in the test as it's written for somebody who is hearing?
The biggest impact our students have in causing their struggles, and because the majority of our students are experiencing language deprivation, which means our students, most of the time, when they arrive here to our school, they are coming with or with very minimal language skills. So if they arrive in middle school with and only be able to point at things and gesture, are unable to sign or speak, then they have to take the LEAP 2025 and try to pass it, proving they can analyze a specific text, which is incredible. It's a big deal. It's a big disconnect that's happening. And that, I think, looking at our data, approximately 90% or greater of our students have some sort of language deprivation. So we are struggling to pull those students to be on level, but they're already arriving well behind.
Thank you so much.
I'm concerned about the number of students that are below approaching basic. And I'm wondering what kind of support systems do we have in place? Or are our students eligible for the tutoring funding that the state's made available for interventions?
Well, we have lots of different supports in place for them, one of which is offering that high dosage tutoring during the day for all of our students, K through 8. LDOE only requires that through K through 5, but we went ahead and instituted that for the rest of the middle school as well, just so they're ready and offering those supports and building that into their schedule every day. So we've expanded that amount of time for next year as well into their schedule, giving them more of that focus time so that they can improve their specific areas of growth needs. We also have tutoring that we are running as a side for our own selves, and maybe offering qualified tutors from LDOE, but we don't have interpreters. If we were all signing up for tutoring, they don't have interpreters for every student and to attend with that student and tutor. So we don't have teachers to offer after school tutoring, so it's quite a barrier for us. So we find that it's better for ourselves as a school to offer that instruction during the school day. As I just explained about fingers spelling our way to reading, it's focused, it's deaf-focused curriculum, so it's structured that way to help them read. Often we get a curriculum that is hearing-based, and it doesn't quite often match with our students. This is a better fit for our students. It supplements the regular Tier 1 curriculum that we offer, and we're still using the Tier 1 curriculum, but this is just a supplement to help them read and access that curriculum. Other supports that we're offering for our language deprivation students is expanding our ASL immersion program, especially for next year. And the thing about this is that our students, like if they are unable to even communicate and say, that's my mother, that's my father, if they can't even say that, then they can't analyze a text on the test. So right now, we're starting with just that foundational language skill through ASL immersion being offered, then they can transition those language skills to take the test. So we are highly pushing that ASL immersion so they can use those skills to access the academics faster.
Thank you for that. So it sounds like the high dosage tutoring is available, but it seems to be somewhat limited because of having qualified instructors. Is that the right interpretation?
Actually, we're using the high dosage tutoring every day during the day.
Okay.
We're not limited in that way. What I was speaking of is that external tutoring option offered from LDOE. We are limited at that. But the high dosage tutoring we're offering every day, and actually LDOE has praised our efforts in running that tutoring
Okay.
every day.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, the literacy problem is it's an issue across the state. Two-thirds of the kids in the state don't read at grade level. That's the whole general student population. So it's not surprising to hear it's a concern here. Sounds like it's an even greater concern. So I'm really interested, in what other support systems we could offer. What about the AI concept here, so that students potentially have their own tutor? Is that something that you guys have explored with FlexPoint? Is that an opportunity here?
Yes, we actually did try FlexPoint. It did not work out for us because, again, they didn't have interpreters available, and we didn't have enough interpreters available to actually sit down with every class all day, every day, for the length of class that we offer. So, again, that was a barrier for us. But for AI, part of the problem there, again, is our students' language deprivation being a huge impact for them. They can't access the English in class. If they're unable to type or read from AI, then that's a complication. Right now, AI is not at the point where they're offering proficient sign language tutoring at the moment. Another thing we're offering for support is to our families. We did a feedback survey that we send out every year. We got back that result, and a lot of their parents and families are nervous about signing with their students and around other deaf people. So we're trying to work with that family engagement committee to help these families participate more and engage more with their ASL immersion program so that their students are also learning the language faster and therefore they're gaining in literacy faster.
Okay, just a couple more. What about Amira? Are you familiar with Amira for foreign language AI application? Amira, yeah.
I think you mentioned that about the Khan Academy, is that correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Is that in conjunction with the Khan Academy?
No, it's separate from Khan Academy. Khan Academy's tool is Khanmigo. Amira is a separate software company with AI expertise, but it's good for literacy and specifically for, well, it's focused on literacy. Maybe that's a follow-up. I'd be happy to help you out with that contact.
I think I looked into that previously, and if when I can recall correctly, it was more, again, hearing-based. You could read it, and you could speak it, and then it would listen and catch any errors and then correct it. But our students, most of them don't speak verbally.
Got it. Okay, last question. What about, and you may have mentioned this earlier and I missed it, but what about summer programs? What do we do in the summertime to offer students some sort of engagement opportunity?
We are following the LDB literacy guidance as well as our math guidance. We're still offering curriculum during the summertime. They have morning focused on academics and supports in the regular curriculum, plus there are accelerated supports in regards to their gaps that they may have. In the afternoons, we have language building activities. Those are still academic based, but they're more fun feeling. Like there's STEM, social studies. They're still incorporating the other academic subjects, but just more hands-on. And that hands-on activity will make language acquisition faster. And we're definitely trying to work on that language gap, filling that in during the summer that they're ready for the fall. And it's exciting because we are trying our hardest to pull in more students to come for summer program, because we have a lot of students who are coming, thankfully, and the dorm is getting ready for them for the amount of students who are coming, just to try to reduce that summer decline.
Got it. Thank you.
Sherry.
Yes, hi, this is Sherry speaking. I know that deaf students, their first language is American Sign Language, and that's a huge language barrier when it comes to learning and understanding English. And I was wondering, based on your testing program, like LEAP, SAT, all the other programs, are there any of them that use American Sign Language for testing, or does the students have to do the reading on their own? How is the test actually performed? I just wanted to know.
So for the ACT and any of the EOC tests that I mentioned, we do sign the test for the students to access that. That means not every person is going to sign exactly the same thing. For reading comprehension, we do not sign that. So the students we're testing their comprehension on what they can read, right? So we aren't able to sign that portion of the test, but everything else outside of reading comprehension, we are able to sign.
Okay.
Any other questions?
This is Dr. Morton. I'd like to make a comment. Mr. Morris,
I saw Maria had a question, but Dr. Martin, go ahead.
okay, let me just make a comment, and we'll go to Maria. But both LSVI and LSD are doing 3 weeks of summer programming in the month of June. And going back to the high dosage tutoring, the district received a total of $1,500 in funding from the state for the high dosage tutoring, because I guess it's based on student count. It's a formula. And so even if we had a suitable program, it would be difficult to purchase. I mean, we could come up with probably the money in other areas to fund it. But one of the things about AI, and I just want to touch on this quickly, is that it is English-based right now. The language models are English-based. That that these programs are built on. And our students' first language at LSD is sign. And so when learning a language, you know, when you learn the vocabulary and stuff, you get the English version and then you get whatever language that you're learning, that version. And right now, we don't have a program with AI that gives the kids the sign version and then the English version. So that's where we're running difficult. I think, now I have seen some promising work around sign and AI, but it just hasn't caught up yet.
I want to go back quickly to what Mr. Morris was asking, the question about, and what Susan had also offered about the IBCs and being and having interpreters, IBC certification for interpreters. We don't have that right now. We do offer a pathway called Human Services. And in this pathway, you can take several classes in relation to, you know, your SLPI, the Sign Language Proficiency Interview. I really would love to see LDOE support in our efforts in this and expanding that pathway so we can offer an IBC for interpreting. I'd also like them to consider SSPs, support service providers. We have a lot of deaf-blind individuals in the state of Louisiana and a lot of jobs available for that SSP position. I think that with it helps our community out and also offer jobs for people after graduation.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that. Just want to raise awareness and make sure that that you guys appreciate that one of the new approaches to the accountability system is the ability for you to develop your own bundle, so that if you identify one IBC as, or it's identified, one IBC is identified as lower value, and you wouldn't get as much credit for it, but if you can bundle 2 or 3 lower valued IBCs, then it would have equivalent value as a higher valued IBC. So if you can look at a skill set for a deaf person or blind person or a deaf blind person, and you can package that, you know, with 2 or 3 IBCs, then you would give equivalent value for a higher value. But you have to submit that application to the Louisiana Workforce Commission. I know that Jessica Valalungo at LDOE can help you with that work process, but it's definitely something that I think that we should be considering.
That would be
I
fabulous.
believe Maria had a question.
Yes, Maria.
Yes, this is Maria speaking. To go off point a little bit, LSD, I asked sometime last year if the students have Usher syndrome, and you said that Megan Wimberley was going to contact the state to see if they could be tested to see if they have Usher syndrome.
This is Dr. Delgado. No, we did not make any progress on that at the moment. You are right. We did have a work group working on that with possibly setting up Usher screenings for our students. But the Student Health Center here had changed their procedures for a vision screening. So we are trying to figure out how we can maybe navigate that a little bit differently. Hopefully we can reach out to the Louisiana Deafblind Project to see if we can work on that in a different way. I know that LDOE at the time was talking with Dr. Wimberley, and I think they're still in talks about possibly doing a pilot program. I'm unsure where that discussion and conversation is at currently, but we're hoping that we can work out a pilot program and what that may look like, and do we here at LSD become the pilot, then we can then offer that out to see what happens to other schools in the state of Louisiana. But I agree, we definitely need to be in talks on screening for ushers in the state.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Delgado. Next up, we're going to have the SSP, and I would like to let you guys know that Dr. Lewis is out with a family emergency, and so Lexi Walker will be presenting for SSP today.
Good morning. I'm Lexi Walker. I am the Regional Coordinator for Central Louisiana Supports and Services Center. I'm filling in for Dr. Lewis today. She has sent me some data to report for different areas in SSP. Currently, the enrollment for SSP is 265 students. The Louisiana Department of Health sites have currently 142 students between them. That is Pinecrest and Central Louisiana Supports and Services Centers together. The DOC sites have 9 students, and the OJJ sites currently have 98 students. Staffing, current staff across SSP includes 50 staff members. There are current staffing needs or vacancies at OJJ, Pinecrest, and DOC programs. She asked for me to report on summer programming. The OJJ programs are going to begin summer programming on May 19th, while the Department of Health sites are going to begin on May 27th. And those programs are all unique to the individual sites. She also asked me today to present a little bit and highlight Central Louisiana Supports and Services Center, which is the facility that I'm located at and where Ms. Flynn is the director. Central Louisiana Supports and Services Center is a mouthful, I'm sorry. And it is a Department of Health intermediate care facility. Currently, we have 40 students with the special school program out of 92 residents at the facility. The facility currently serves students who have medical complexities as well as cognitive disabilities. All of our students currently have multiple significant disabilities. All of our students are currently on the LEAP Connect track, so they all will work for a certificate of achievement when they graduate before the age of 25 from our program. The curriculums that we use are the Unique Learning System, which is a curriculum specifically designed for students with significant disabilities. We also are on our 3rd year of adapting the Louisiana ELA guidebooks curriculum to meet the needs of our students with disabilities. This is a Tier 1 curriculum that we spend many hours throughout the year adapting for our students who are non-speaking, who have mobility issues, and who are non-readers. And so a lot of work goes into building the appropriate accommodations, as well as providing correct materials that make the curriculum accessible for our students and their various needs. We are also very proud that this year our early childhood special ed program under Ms. Anda Bevick's instruction received an excellent rating with the State Department under the Rapides Early Childhood Network. This is the first year that we have been included in the Rapides Early Childhood Network, which is ranked 6th in the state of Louisiana. And so our scores go towards that Rapides network, and we get to do and be a part of a lot of the work that the Early Childhood Network in Rapides Parish puts out, which includes a lot of training for Ms. DeBevick and a lot of inclusive programming for our students. And we're really proud of her and excited for our 5 students who get to participate in that early childhood program. We also are wrapping up our arts partnership with the River Oaks Arts Center in Alexandria. We have weekly a teacher, Miss Lindsay Moore, who is a special arts instructor. She comes onto our campus and spends an hour each day with each of our students and does adaptive art programming. And she's been able to put out a lot of really fun, inclusive art with our students, as well as a display at the River Oaks Arts Center where our students got to participate in a gallery display. And we're excited this summer to start a ceramics program with them on site at the River Oaks Arts Center where they get to go and do some hands-on ceramics with their peers. So, any questions?
I'd like to make a comment before you start taking questions. This is Dr. Martin. I just want to congratulate you on that excellent rating with the pre-K program, and note that we only have 2 pre-K programs currently, one at LSD and the other is at Classic, and both are rated excellent. So, so both of our pre-K programs are rated excellent by the state. All right, looks like you got off the hook.
Thank you.
Be safe going back. All right, now we're going to get into our operational updates from the different departments, and I would like to encourage my folks to realize that we're running a little long in the tooth here. So if we could keep it to 5 minutes with each one of the updates moving forward. We're going to start with district-wide supports, and that's Nancy Rawls.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Rawls from District-Wide Supports. I'm going to cut out some of the stuff that the schools and other people have already reported on. So if you see a topic that I'm not touching on, it's because it's already been covered. For ESS, LDOE has put out a number of new bulletins pertaining to special ed, so we've been working on making sure that we're following those and updating our policies. And also the ESS staff have been really busy, hard at work, trying to support the teachers in the classrooms with their progress monitoring. And I think that will be beneficial both for now, because we have some really good data with that progress monitoring. That's a better tool really for being able to show our students' growth. School improvement, LSD has submitted their school improvement plan. LSBI, Classic, and Pinecrest are all in the final stages of theirs. Those are updated now. They're ready to roll, so we'll be able to use those in the future and next year as we make sure that we align all of our spending to those priorities and that we're using it for, we're compliant. For testing, happy to report that state testing for our campus is complete. We just have the last few things to ship back. Now with computerized testing, there's not a lot of materials that go back and forth, but there is a little bit. The schools have reported their end of course exam grades. A lot of those have come back. We're still waiting on the final few. And for the rest of those scores, it's generally the 3rd week of July or sometimes the 4th week of July, and we'll have all the grades 3 through 8 scores. I do want to give a shout out across our campus for those people that have helped make testing go so smoothly. I think sometimes we forget that testing does impact every department, all the way to including that they can't mow the grass around the school buildings. So it really is a combined effort, and I want to thank everyone for that. And for attendance, LDOE has put out a new attendance initiative, The Power of Presence. I'm happy to say that our attendance is improved this year. Our chronic absenteeism is right at 18%, and this is for LSD and LSBI. Statewide, it's 24%. Looking back at 23-24, we were about at 30-35% chronic absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism is when a student misses more than 10% of days, and that is including excused, doctor's notes, medical, whatever the reason. That just means that they've missed that much instruction. So we're at 18%. We're hoping to mirror LDOE's push to reduce it by about 1 to 2% every year. They have a growth target that they're looking for, so we hope to follow that. But our attendance definitely is improved this year, so that's a good thing. The more we can have our students in class, the more instruction they're receiving. For athletics, we did have 2 students qualify for the state track meet, so that's really a great accomplishment. We do think that we will have a football team next year at LSD. That is a student and fan favorite, so that's really promising. I know the kids are excited about that. Also next year, we're looking forward to LSD will host the Cajun Classic. That's a basketball tournament in December, and LSBI will host SCASB, wrestling, cheerleading, and performing arts in January. And SCASB is South Central Association of Schools for the Blind. So those are 2 big athletic events that will be coming next school year. But I think that's all I have that wasn't already touched on. Any questions?
I have any questions, I just would like to make a comment. I appreciate the work around attendance. That's a significant drop, and that's because the schools have really been on top of those parent contacts, and we are pushing from the district level, making sure all the letters are sent out in a timely fashion, and all of that is done. So obviously the work that we're doing is working, so just keep it up.
Right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nancy. And up next is Dr. Seegers with Statewide Services and Supports.
Good morning. Good morning. I'll try to keep it brief. As Dr. Martin knows, that's kind of difficult for me, but I'll try. Last time I met with you, we were in the middle of the federal quota census, which is a count that we do of students that are blind and visually impaired in the state, in the public schools, and we also have an account for private schools as well for the state. Last time I talked to you, we were over 1,000, which was a first for us. By the time we got to the end of phase 2, we lost about 50 students due to not having parent permission to register those students or lack of a current eye report. So we are reaching out to those 50 the districts. It wasn't 50 districts, it was 50 students. We're reaching out to those districts, and there's a lot of different reasons that didn't happen, but we're reaching out to try to get those 50 back for next year, and hopefully moving forward we'll be able to get those at the time we register students. We will be going to an online registration next year through our cloth system, which will streamline the process a little bit more, and hopefully that will help us with that. So even though we lost those 50, we're still at a record number this year. Our number last year was 750, and if you look, we have 946. So we gained quite a few students from last year to this year, and mainly because we put that emphasis on getting those parent permissions and finding those students. We contacted every single parish and talked to the division teachers, the directors of special education, and encouraged them to get us the information we needed, and we found a lot of kids. Next year, our emphasis is going to be on the birth to 3 population. I know that there's more of those out there that we were not able to capture this year. So we're going to reach out to the pre-K, the birth to 3 program, and see if we can partner to try to get some of those students registered, as many of those students as we possibly can. So based on our final number of 946, we are projecting, and we won't know until January when the legislature, the national legislature sets this, because this is a federal program, exactly how much. All we can do is project based on what the quota was set at for last year. So we're looking at $285,667.25, which that could go up or down depending on the allocation made by Congress. Okay? So I'll keep you updated on that. The LIMC, the Louisiana Instructional Materials Center, is one of the centers that's under statewide services and supports. And of course, the mission of the LIMC is to make sure that our students in the state receive Braille and large print materials that they need. We have set a goal in our center this year, and I know it's a very high, lofty goal, but we have set a goal that all of our students will have their materials in the medium that they need it on the first day of school at the same time as their sighted peers. That is our goal, and that should always be our goal. I understand that there's any number of things that could keep that from happening, but we're doing everything on our end to make sure that that does happen. Now, if somebody calls me up on July 15th and said, oh, I've got this new geometry book that needs to be transcribed into Braille. I wish I was a magician and could make that happen. I can get it in production as soon as possible, but I can't have a Braille geometry book that's going to end up being 45 or 50 volumes done in 2 weeks' time, But I'll do everything I can. So I'm really encouraging the teachers of the visually impaired across the state, especially if they need Braille books, to get me that information and get that order to me as soon as possible so that I can get it out to a Brailleist and get it started, so that we can at least have the first volumes of that book, so that that student has what everybody has on the first day of school. Our kids deserve no less than that. Absolutely. I can tell you, having been a TBI out in the field, I have been that teacher that had that student that didn't have that geometry book on the first day of school. Just think about being blind and not being able to see the board and not being able to see the examples in your textbook, only what you could hear. It's not a good situation. And I can remember sitting up till midnight trying to stay a day ahead of my student, trying to Braille it myself, which wasn't the best Braille in the world at that time. Our kids deserve better than that. and we need to provide that. So that is our goal. We may not always get there, but we're always working towards it, okay? At the LIMC, and this was as of March 1st, there had been 277 titles ordered by local parish school districts. We were able to, at that point, recycle 68 of those requests for Braille books, which is a huge cost. That saved us $11,432. We ordered 45 titles from vendors. We have 12 new Braille transcriptions in progress right now. We had 5 in-house Braille productions, and actually these numbers have gone up since March 1st. And we had 147 items on reserve as of March 1st, which means they're checked out to a school district, coming back in, and when they come back in, we'll send them right back out to that child that they're on reserve for. So these numbers have probably doubled now since March 1st, but it just goes to show you, you know, if we get those books back, we can use them again and again and again and not have to keep buying them and save money. The Ames Center, which is another part of statewide services and supports, they're not directly involved in Braille. Well, they are directly involved in Braille and large print. I have a person that's working her fingers to the bone right now, producing large print books for students, and who does Braille. And I probably will end up doing some Braille books myself because we're getting bogged down there. So anyway, the whole goal of these 2 centers is to provide access to our students with disabilities. And while the LIMC focuses on Braille and large print, the Ames Center focuses on access for all disability areas. So we have 6 Ames specialists that go out into local parishes when they're asked to support students with the technology that's available that will help them get access to what every other child has. And that is the mission of that. So we've done 119 hours of consultation with those districts and their teachers. We've done 208 hours of tech assistance. We've provided 24 hours of professional development training that has been requested. We had a state AIM conference with 130 participants back in March. And right now we're working on the LearnDash modules. They're almost completed. The AT guidebook, the ACC, and the UDT, and the AT books. And we should have that and all those modules completed by the end of this month. And that's really all that I have. I will add that we do have 3 outreach teachers that we're hoping to hire, but with the hiring freeze, we've not been able to advertise those. But Dr. Martin has submitted a waiver, since these are student-facing positions, where we would provide BI and O&M services to parishes that had small numbers of students and small numbers of access to an O&M instructor. And so we're hoping that we'll get permission. You know, we're just waiting, just like all the other positions. Okay. Any questions about statewide services and supports? Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. I know it's been a heavy lift down there, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. Next up is our Executive Director of Operations, Jeff Jacobs.
Hello, my name is Jeff Jacobs. I am head of the operations department for SSD. I want to go over some of the projects that our team is working on. We're working with our IT staff and Layered Solutions to put in a new emergency alert system in LSD, High School and Vocational Building. This is kind of like our first phase in this process. We are going to move to LSVI after this is done and completed. Our annual property certification is due to the state on May 23rd, so we're working on that to wrap that up. We are working on several campus upgrades with our electrical and plumbing campus-wide. Our in-house electrician, Chris Boros, has been spearheading a lighting assignment campus-wide. We've highlighted a lot of areas around campus for the students that are walking back and forth from the student center and the cafeteria at night that we need to better accommodate the lights around the campus. So what we're doing is we are going to replace all the lighting on the walkways. We're taking down the fluorescent bulbs, and we're going to put LED lights throughout all the walkways on campus. The buildings are going to receive new lighting around. The wall packs in the building are going to be LED, so they're going to be much brighter. So it's just going to, another safety initiative is to just brighten up the campus so the students can feel safe walking around at night. One of the biggest projects that we're working on currently is we're going to add 23 additional cameras. La Tech company is spearheading that with us, and we're going to highlight some of the zones that we can't cover with our current system. During the walkways to the gymnasium, there's a lot of blind spots that we can't currently see on our camera system, so we're installing, basically starting here all the way down to the high school. We're putting probably 10 or 12 cameras along that route. Plus, we're highlighting the back of our campus, which has been a little bit, we've had a couple incidents on campus with people coming over the fence. So we're highlighting cameras on the back of our operations building and our new barn to direct basically 365 degrees around the building of operations and our laydown yard where we keep our equipment. Plus, the barn's going to be able to highlight shooting out where the pastures and the back fence area, so we can record anybody if we have any incidents in the future. Also, our electrician is working on rejuvenating the light poles out by our baseball field that have been down for several times, and we're going to put motion detectors on those lights to, if anybody comes on our campus, it's going to light up. So hopefully that'll deter for future visitors that are not welcome. So, so we're working on a few projects campus-wide, a few beautification projects that we're working on. We're going to redo the roof on the security building, kind of just liven up the campus, make it look better as you approach the campus, and having our grounds and maintenance crew work on flower beds and all that stuff during the summer. So we just tried to make it a lot more inviting place to come work and for the children. So that's all I got. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, you're probably not the right person to ask the question, but I appreciate the work that you guys had done on the swimming pool to get the swimming pool back in service. So I just want to see if how that's going, if it's still running okay, and then how much use we're getting out of the swimming pool. Can somebody speak to that?
It's gone fantastic. We actually got our heater working this year, so the kids are enjoying that. We've had lifeguards on staff, so the kids are going after school, and I think they're really enjoying it. So that was a huge project for our campus to get that going, because it's been down for a long time. So it's nice to let the children enjoy some after-school activities in there.
Great, exactly. Just really, really appreciate that. The other question I had was, again, I'm not sure if you're the right person, but you did mention the uninvited guest that we had. Can somebody just, particularly for the newer board members, can you guys sort of give us a highlight of that, some sort of brief summary, what happened, how it was handled, and what, if any, outstanding concerns there are?
Basically, on the back of our campus, we have an apartment complex, and we've had some incidents in the past where we've had people jump over the fence and come onto our campus, and our campus security has found those people in the past. And also when we've had police come to our campus when somebody has jumped the fence that they're looking for, we've installed our RAVE application where we can highlight and let our dormitories and people on staff know that we have a suspicious person on campus, so they can go down to a lockdown mode and we can better patrol the area and make sure everybody's safe and secure.
What kind of detection system do we have in place right now so that we're aware when we do have these uninvited guests?
Basically, security makes the rounds around campus.
Okay.
And we have, I mean, my team, my operations team they patrol around campus all day long, and they know what to do in the instance if they see somebody come, they know to go on to our application and create a lockdown mode, so we're on top of, if we have anybody to come over that we don't know who it
This is Dr. Martin, if I could comment a little bit too, Ronnie, that we don't have a detection system, so if someone breaches the perimeter, that we're automatically notified. We are working to upgrade the cameras so that we can get a more constant live feed of the entire perimeter of the campus, and increasing that lighting, because lighting's a deterrent as well. Really, we rely, the last incident, which forced us to go into lockdown, was they were pursuing a subject, and they were believed to have jumped the fence and come on campus. There was an extensive police search during that particular one. They used drone technology and other things to sweep the area. And I think by the time they were able to respond, he was already probably at the levee. But that's why we're looking to upgrade. And I know there was a question about, I think it was Kenny that asked about like barbed wire over the fence and things like that. And those are some things that we can look at in putting together. It's difficult. We have 116 acres to secure. So, and we just don't have that technology in place to, really monitor that, to the point of where I guess it could be if we had some additional technology. So we're going to continue to reevaluate that. We do work with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security. We work with our local law enforcement partners to, every year we do a sort of a needs assessment. I think that's required by the state. And we do that needs assessment and go through and try to make upgrades based on some of that guidance that we get.
Thank you. Last question. You identified a couple of major capital projects on your screen here. Are there any outstanding, significant capital projects that the board needs to be aware of?
The most important thing I think we need to look at as the future is all these roofs on all these buildings on our campus are our original. That's one of the biggest projects that we need to continue to move forward on. We did our gymnasium last year, and hopefully budget allows us to do our high school vocational next year. And we just basically have to work our way around campus because we have challenges with leaks and this, that, and the other thing, but we just need to replace all the roofs on campus. That's one of the biggest things. And also our air conditioning units in our buildings are all original as well. So they're 30 years old. So we want to do an initiative to go to the worst ones now and move our way around campus, similar to the roof project, to just keep upgrading as we go, whatever budget allows. We'll just go from building to building.
And do we have a plan that's built in, like a 5-year plan that's built into the budget?
We have to work with our the office in the FP&C, the Facility Planning and Control division. They will manage the projects with us. So we're working with them to explain to them what we need to do. Then we'll submit all the paperwork, and they'll help us work on our budget, and they're going to help us manage the projects as well.
Mr. Morris, to answer your question, we are working on the 5-year plan, and that's part of the strategic planning process that we're getting ready to delve into right now as well.
All right, great. Thank you.
One more question from Kenny.
This is Kenny. When I was looking at the upgrade around the campus, the upgrading the roads for $600,000, is that for the entire road around the campus or just part of it?
We've highlighted several areas around campus that are the worst right now, and that's kind of a ballpark figure what it's going to take to get some of the school parking lots done and some of the other areas where the potholes have grown up. We've tried to patch them internally, but we want a professional to come and lay down professional asphalt and all that stuff. But the 600,000 is kind of in a ballpark figure of the areas I've highlighted around campus, which I've had vendors come out and look at certain areas that we want to do. So that's kind of like a ballpark figure to get started with that project.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Next up, with the Personnel and Business Office report, will be Ms. Del Picu.
Good morning, everybody, or it's almost afternoon. I'm Del Picu. I'm the Executive Director for Business Office and also Human Resources. I'll start off with the personnel report that we usually give. These dates are from 2/1/2025 to 5/9/2025. We have had 12 appointments that's hires, rehires, and transfers into the agency during that period. We've also had 3 organizational or position changes during that time. We've had 16 separations and transfer outs. That is broken down into 14 people resigned or retired, and we had 2 people that transferred out to another agency. For the leave report, during this period, we've had 0 sabbatical leave. Everybody's been here, so we don't have anybody on sabbatical leave. We have 1 person who's approved for extended sick leave. We have 18 employees who were approved for FMLA, and we have 3 lost time worker comps claims, and that's down by 1 person from the last time we reported. I'm going to move to the business and finance area, to that report area. I have a few things that I need to report out to the board. First of all, the budget. We have gone through the preliminary budget request. We've been before session. So they are, the preliminary budget for fiscal year 26 is $38,283,101. That is $2.8 million down from the previous budget. That is a reduction. However, that reduction only happened in our TOs. So that is preliminary. Of course, this is dependent upon the approval of legislature. So keep that in mind. For fiscal year 26 grant funding, we have moved our grant funding under federal programs here. That's just for better realignment and cost effectiveness. That is going to support us with allowable expenditures and managing grants like we need to manage them. That alignment includes us reporting the federal program section. Will be reporting our submissions and our cost reimbursements at that time for next year. The budget authority is going to still remain with our budget office. Right now, somebody, I can't remember someone spoke that we are under audit right now, LLA audit. I take these audits extremely serious. So far, we do not have any outstanding requests that I'm aware of that we have not fulfilled in the previous audits. And I'm using the questions and the requests that they're making to us that we're receiving as a support and an opportunity for us to complete processes and make changes to our policies and updates. The business office and HR teams are building foundations of effectiveness, and we're basing these on audit outcomes, and we're also basing it on best practices. The end of the year is here, so this is a very, very busy time for the business office on the state side. It's closeout time, so we'll be working to close out this fiscal year so that we can enter into the new fiscal year. So this is what we're doing. So far, we have expended about 72% of our budget. Thus far, we're looking at realigning different things. We have some outstanding deficits in a few areas in the budget that we're moving money to cover that from different areas that we didn't expend the money in, so that can lessen our revision. There is, I think Jeff spoke about the major repairs. And I was going to speak on that. We are working with facilities and planning for next year for capital outlay to assist us in utilizing their services in order to make sure that we're getting the major repairs for the budget done. Our major repairs next year were approved, were preliminarily approved for next year, and Jeff spoke to those types of things, but we will be adding on that top layer of capital outlay from facilities and planning. We've been working with them and getting some information from them in order to help us to fix up the grounds and the buildings here. And that's it. That's all that I have to report for. Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
So the fiscal year ends July 1. Do you have a forecast for a balance at the end of the year? Do we expect to have an overrun or an excess or some sort of forecast?
I don't forecast that we will, simply because we had some things that impacted our budget. We had raises that happened. So there are areas in the budget that is over-expended, although it equals out at the end of the day. But I don't foresee us having a major revision of us giving back money as we balance those things out. We are working with the Office of Planning and Budget right now to kind of right-side those areas and see where we are. But I don't see from the data that I have that we're going to be reverting a whole bunch of money. We have been expending the money in the budget.
Yeah, you make a really important point. I want to make sure the board understood. If you don't spend it, you lose it. That's pretty much
Right.
the policy, right?
Right. If
Right.
you don't expend your money in the budget, that's why it's very important to make sure that we're looking at this on a monthly basis. We will revert that money back to the state, and so we don't want to have to do that. We've also looked at other projects from Jeff's team to see what kind of areas that we can utilize the money. We do have the carry forward that we can do. So if we start projects this fiscal year and they're not finished, we still have the opportunity to carry that money forward. So we are looking at just different minor projects that we can do to lessen that reversion if we have to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, when I think we scheduled a July meeting as our next meeting. I'd like to get an update to know where we landed on the balance.
That is not a problem. I'll have that for you.
And then my last question, and I think goes to the superintendent and maybe our board president. I know at one point in time we discussed the committee makeup of this board, and there was some discussion about, do we need a finance committee or not? I've been involved in some other legislative audit reviews that in those particular situations they definitely needed a finance committee. Lack of oversight there created a lot of problems for a lot of people that could have been avoided. So I'm not really comfortable with what our situation is here, but I'd really like to get a recommendation from somebody that we either do need a finance committee or we do not, and what's the basis for the recommendation.
I think a finance committee would be great. I don't think, I'm not concerned about oversight. However, I think that as the board, anytime you can provide input and some guidance over the way that we're utilizing our resources, I think is a good thing. So I don't have the oversight concerns. However, I think that, if you could put together finance, and that's a committee that can meet a couple of times a year prior to our meeting in October when we're talking about budget. It's a little bit different because ultimately our budget is given to us and not really adopted here and passed through to be voted on. So it works a little bit different than your traditional LEA. However, I think that anytime the board can have an opportunity to be more engaged in the processes here, I invite it. So.
Right. If we could get that recommendation for the next meeting, I'd really appreciate it.
I think we could put that probably on the agenda for next board meeting, so.
And just to add or piggyback off of Dr. Martin, what he said, I think that is a great idea for the board to have a committee as such. Although the information that we report out is important information, I think that it can be a little bit more robust than what we have here. And I think that maybe having a guided type of form for the board with specific questions that you all want to know or ask about would be valuable. Your opinion for us at this agency, especially for me in the finance arena, is valuable. So I would not object to actually having a finance committee and having people to weigh in and, just having everybody at the table to make sure that we're expending our money the way we need to and it's as efficient as possible. I'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you. You guys have a great afternoon.
All right, thank you again, Dale, and thank you to everyone who's presented today. I think it's always better to get that information firsthand instead of listening to me talk for 45 minutes. So I've got a few things that I wanted to share with you today. My updates are going to be around the 25-26 budget, but that was covered pretty well with Dale, so I'll just add a couple of points. The hiring freeze and sort of how we're proceeding with that. School plans and alignment, it was talked about a little bit, but I just want to expound about that a little bit. And then the strategic planning process. All right, so first on the 25-26 for the FY26 budget cycle, we're in the middle of session. Obviously, House Bill 1 is going to be an ever heating up topic, so we're going to be following that. I know Ms. Green is actively following that and providing me with updates when necessary on that. We went to Senate Finance on April the 8th and then House Appropriations on April the 9th. I will tell you, in looking at the, over the last couple of years, I've been able to use attrition to work with those raises, and now it's somewhat time to pay the piper. And so I don't expect, because they cut 19 TOs, I don't expect for us to have any room to work with attrition this year on the pay increases. The good point is, over the last 2 years, we've given 6% to our teachers and educational assistants, and 4% to all of our other unclassified staff. So I think we're in fairly good shape there, but I don't expect raises for unclassified staff. Now, that doesn't affect our classified staff. We'll see when the legislation comes through. I don't expect for them to put a freeze on that, but that would be the legislature and the governor for our classified staff. But for unclassified staff, I do not expect to be able to provide raises this year. But we will continue to scrub the budget, and if there's any room there, we will definitely make sure we use good use of those funds. Any question about that? All right. So the hiring freeze. I have submitted our waiver for student-facing positions. So all of the positions that we presented for exception are student-facing positions, with the exception of one, and I mentioned it earlier on today, and that was that is our internal auditor. That is required by law, and so since we have a vacancy there that's required by law, I went ahead and made sure to submit that. I did get some feedback from Office of Planning and Budget late last week. They had a clarifying question. I was able to answer their question, and so right now they're doing the analysis to see if they will lift that hiring freeze for us, because right now we're in prime season to start staffing up for next school year. So, there's probably never a good time for hiring freeze, but this was extremely problematic, I think, for a state agency that runs schools, because right now we're in the middle of doing that hiring for next year. We will make what we need to do to make work. And I think we'll be in decent shape to start the school year if we don't have a lot of resignations over the summer. And so sometimes teachers wait to that 11th hour to let us know that they're not coming back. So, we will definitely monitor that. And like I said, hopefully either the freeze will be lifted or we'll get our exemption and we can start recruiting for those. Any question about the hiring freeze? Okay. Yes, Kenny.
So the funds that we don't use are the positions that are not used So you were talking about the hiring freeze. There are some positions that are not needed, and there are others that are more important, and we are hiring for those positions.
Well, I've put in the request to get an exemption for those, and all of the ones are student-facing positions. If it was a teacher vacancy, I entered in for an exemption. And if it was an educational assistant vacancy, I also asked for an exemption. The operations side, district-wide supports, they have some openings, but I did not submit them for the exemption because they're not student-facing positions. And I wanted to make sure that we prioritized our student-facing positions. You know, it wouldn't serve us well if I just sent over all of our openings and say, I'd like an exemption for all of these. I think when we prioritized them and wrote our justifications, we were very thoughtful with that, and because we were thoughtful with that, I think it's more likely to be granted. Now, I will tell you, Thrive has had theirs granted. So, and we used the way that they presented their case, I sort of modeled mine after theirs. And so hopefully, you know, we're all state special schools, so hopefully if they did it for one, they'll do it for the other.
Okay, another question I have. I was wondering if the students, the student growth, the enrollment here is growing, if you predict that we will grow more in enrollment?
I don't think we'll grow to the point over the next year that it would impact staffing needs, because I think we'd have to gain 15, 20 students to really, truly impact our staffing needs right now. I mean, I'm happy with the growth. I think it's because we're doing a better job of telling our story, and the school directors are really knocking it out of the park and talking about their numbers. And I think they're redoing the narrative that was out there about the schools. And so I think that that's been very effective in allowing us to grow some. But I don't predict, you know, this mass influx of students that would put us in a staffing issue at this point. All right? And we are still struggling with staffing in our OJJ centers, and I will tell you all of those positions went on our exemption request so that we can continue to hire. Jessica, I have a question. Did you guys put forth an exemption thing? Was it granted yet or not? So it's been granted. Okay. So I think that they're thinking about the schools in a different manner than they are the other folks. So hopefully I'll hear back this week on ours. All right, any other questions about that? Okay, so update on the school planning. As it previously mentioned by Nancy, that the school plans, LSD has submitted theirs. Theirs had to come in earlier because it had to go to the state for review because of their status with the state. We are in the process of now getting the rest of those schools in. And this is really a coordinated effort and a streamlined effort, and so everything is sort of, you know, there's the same expectations for that planning process are spread across our entire district. And I think because we are because we're doing it the same across the district, we'll be able to provide supports in a better manner. Now, the goals are different for each one of the programs, and some of that data looks a little bit different because those programs serve distinctively different groups of students. But I think that when we're talking about aligning resources, unless we have a clear plan for each one of those schools, it's very difficult to align those resources. And I think that this will enable us to do a better job of aligning the resources. It will be a very public-facing document, so those documents, once they're completed, will be published on our website, so that parents and community members can go in and look at those plans and understand priorities, and really get a good idea of where we're trying to head as a district. The only programs that we're not doing a specific school improvement plan are with our OJJ sites because they have their own planning process, and we're a part of that planning process. So, but all of our other programs and schools are getting those plans in place. Any questions about that? And we will share those plans out. I would expect the first part of June, we'll get those all published and out to everybody. All right, I've got, I think one more thing to cover. And that's the strategic planning process that I've been talking about doing. I think it's time that we get together with stakeholder groups and really lay out a firm plan for what does our next 5 years look like. You know, we've been planning and we've been projecting, but I think that the process needs to involve stakeholder groups, and we need to bring folks to the table. We were not approved. The 8G grant is a competitive grant. We were not approved for that grant money that would have enabled us to hire someone to help with that planning process. However, I have talked to Dale, and we started looking at what our projected budget is, and I think we do have some funds available. So I'm starting to reach out to some different folks about assisting us with the strategic planning process, specifically because of the communication challenges that we have with our stakeholder groups. And so I received a bid this morning from Innovate Strategies, which Innovate has done work with the Louisiana Commission for the Deaf, and they've done work with just operations across the country. They are deaf-owned and operated, but they work with all types of different companies with their strategic planning process. And so I did receive a proposal from them. I'm going to reach out to some other groups to see what other types of proposals we can get. But I really think that we need some assistance with shepherding us through this, because I think it's going to be a heavy lift. However, I think it's going to be a very worthwhile exercise for us to go through and really set together a plan for us over the next 5 years. So I should have some more information for that in July, and I would like for us to, in July, to be in a position to where we maybe put together a committee from the board with that can participate in that, and then we identify those stakeholder groups, and then we start gathering our data that we're going to use to create those goals for the next 5 years that we're going to look at, and so hopefully we can have that sort of data gathering stage done by December, and we've had those stakeholder meetings by December, so then we can really start hammering out that plan. And so when we go into the next school year, the 26-27 school year, right? That is the next school year, right? After this, yeah. So 26-27 school year, we will have a really nice roadmap that will keep us heading down the tracks and making progress. Any questions about that? And again, I'm going to share more information as I get it. And then in your board updates, if I get any updates in your weekly emails, I'll make sure to include that as well. All right, I think that's all I had. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I did have one. At one point in time, we talked about having a court reporter, I think is the right title, for somebody to capture meeting minutes. Are we still doing that? Where do we land on that? How are meeting minutes captured now?
So the minutes are captured through the captioning service, right? So everything that we're saying is being transcribed right now and put on the screen. So that would serve the purpose as a court reporter, because everything's transcribed in real time, and we have a transcript of that.
Sounds like efficient government to me, Mr. Superintendent.
I'm sorry?
It sounds like efficient government to me.
Yes, well, I killed two birds with one stone, right?
You got it. Thank you.
All right, I'll turn it back over to Christy.
Jamar.
I would like to make a formal motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Thank you, Jamar. Second. Any opposition to adjourning the meeting? Okay, we'll see y'all July 15th. Have a good one.